Welcome, good people of the internet, and this is Comic Unmasked. I am here with an interview with our buddy Grizz. He is the writer of Medic Grizz, and I'm just going to let him take it off from there. Where can we find this? Give us a little overview of what this story is, and let's have some fun.
Oh, first of all, well, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. Medic Grizz is first found on TikTok Shop. So that's where it is right now. I'm working on getting it on Amazon, but I'm also kind of trying to keep it local. I go to Comic Con so people actually can see things. I'm Delaware based, but I'm starting to branch off and go to Jersey and hopefully New York Comic Con this upcoming year. Basically, Medic Grizz is the beginning of the entire universe that I created. You ever watch Godzilla's recent movie versus King Kong and how there's two different worlds?
Yes, I did. I did. I loved that flip there, and like with the cover for the people who can see it
Yeah.
behind me, that was one of the things that I was like starting to feel when I was looking at the cover on TikTok. It was something that I was like, okay, I kind of see where this is going, and then yeah, keep going with it though.
So that cover is just a prequel slash Easter egg of all the other books I've written. There's 14 books in total that I haven't even put out yet. So that top place and bottom place, I grew up on cartoons. Like SWAT Cast is my favorite cartoon of all time. I will argue with somebody Cartoon Network is the GOAT.
Hey,
That's
there we
my thing.
go. Amen on that.
So the top universe is more the comic book, the anime types, like comic book style. That's what's going to be where Metagriz is. The bottom world is going to be like where your anime, your special weapons, stuff like that is. So that cover is a prequel to what's going to happen in the future with this whole Ghost V universe.
Oh, heck yeah. I like that. I like that. And I was scrolling through your TikTok and I was seeing like some other stuff that was probably
Hmm.
going to be coming out here in the future and everything. And that was one thing that I loved about the creation of your world is that it felt fresh in the idea to where I've seen similar things to this, but it didn't feel exactly like copied and pasted. I could feel a whole bunch of things that were inspired from certain things. One of the things for me was like COVID at the time was going through my head because of the diseases that's going on to ravish the land in this story. And I just immediately went down conspiracy theory land in my head because I'm like, what is this guy going to be doing next? Like, what is going to be set up with this? Because there's so many interesting avenues you could have taken as a writer with this. But to see that you kept it so personal to the characters, I really appreciate that. And especially here with Comics Unmasked, we like to talk about, people of color and everything like that. And for this story, it didn't feel like it was a story about a person of color. It was just a story, and it felt like these people were of color. And so it felt very refreshing because it was like, I can see myself in these roles. I could see my sister in these roles. And that's really what helped me connect to these comic books really well, was the fact that it was like, this is just a story. This is just something that felt like was inspired by something and then, was put out into the world. And I appreciate that because that's kind of what we're looking for, is that freshness in this world.
I appreciate that. My biggest thing was during COVID, I'm actually a paramedic in real life. So I worked the entire time during COVID when everybody was shut down. I still had to go to work. So my hours are pretty long. And in between doing the calls, my way of keeping my mental cool was Apple has the notes pad. I started writing notes. My favorite sport of all time is boxing. So give you guys a clip of what's going to happen inside this book. You see round one, you see round two, round three. That is like going back and forth boxing. So that's what I did. So your main character being Onyx or Chanley, you and how you personally feel and how you connect with the characters decides who's the hero, who's the villain at the conclusion of the book. It's not, the way I wrote it was basically so you would have like, oh, I understand why Onyx did what he did. Now I'm cool with Chanley. I like how he did it. And that's how I wanted to be, like a heavyweight boxing match. And I felt this was the best way to explode into the scene of having this Ghostfeed universe because I'm big on consequences. So if you were to do something, you can't just throw it away. Later on, we're going to find out there's a reaction to what happened. So, for instance, like the whole story, everybody's getting sick and ravaging the world and getting different resources. You have a group of friends you grew up with, and you're like, yo, I wish we all can come together and make a book. I never knew how to do that. So I made little Easter eggs in there with my friends' nicknames in the book that they can pick up and make a book. And actually, recently, shout out to Epic. He just made his book. His book's coming out very soon off of the branch of Metagriz.
Oh heck yeah. See, and that's the great thing about this whole like process that you're starting up to, is to where we've had the big two going on this whole entire time, and
Mhm.
this is how Image kind of came about. Was they were sick and tired of how the big two was running, so a group of people got together and started their own. And I just kind of feel like this is the natural progression step to that, is independent creators coming together trying to get their own world built and being able to just see something, different but similar, and that was what I really enjoyed. Was like, I get a little sick of the superhero stuff because I've gotten Superman, I've gotten Batman, I've gotten all of this, and just to see like Onyx come in and his origin story and all of that stuff, like that felt real to me. And then at the same time, something that could be sci-fi, something that could be out of this world, and something that we don't even understand what's going on because it's not this world, and it just got me excited for the new and upcoming stuff. And so when you're talking about like the writing process in between the calls to keep that mental sanity, was there ever anything that like triggered you into being like, oh, I've got to write about this, this is going to help like get this out and figure just whatever's going on in this crazy world?
So I actually yes, because of the news and how it was being portrayed to the world, what COVID really was, versus the people like myself or the nursing staff or doctors who actually are in actual the world and seeing what's actually happening to people. And it was the media was not explaining everything, and it was making people feel that sometimes vaccine this, vaccine that. That's your own personal preference, but seeing people actually really get sick, having a hard time breathing, having a hard time dealing with certain things, it's like people are out here trying to find medicine. They're trying to find resources. And
Mm-hmm.
what comes in medicine is that gray area where it's like, I don't know if I should pass this line, but I'm trying to find a cure. So that right there impacted me because everyone was scrambling, trying to find a way to find peace and figure out
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. So I was like, okay, cool. If I wrote a comic or a whole, I didn't even look at it as a comic book. I look at it as a universe that can be taken anywhere. And I was like, all right, cool. What boundaries can we cross? Resources. This country might have this. This country might have that. Let me see what's going on. Oh snap! The animals are not being affected by it. Someone's going to notice that and take that into consideration. So that's how all that came about.
No, of course, because like even in like what we think about today's lands on what's going on in the year of 2025, we're going through resource wars already. We're already taking over oil tankers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I hate to say it, but you might have just started like your own kind of like world yourself and brought it to us. We'll have to just see how it keeps going at this point.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was like, okay, cool. Say you're like in Spain, like so. And I took different aspects. Like I like basketball. Um, I love Tim Duncan, but also he's from the islands.
Yep.
Yeah, so Giannis is actually from Greece. So like, there's parts in the book where you see the. I looked at Google. It's the blue pyramids. Like, there's other pyramids in Greece that are not just in Africa. So I took different resources. If you look at the head medical building for Dr. Hooten, it's not in America. So I just want to show that the whole world's being touched by this. And then later on, when the giant storm happens and you have people pop all over the place, you now understand why, because it wasn't just in one secluded place.
And I think that's the great thing, especially because of like with how COVID affected everybody. It did affect every place differently. We
Yeah.
constantly talk about like the stats that were coming out during that time on how like America bounced back versus England bounced back
Mhm.
versus how Australia did. And so I love that there's this thought process that you did to not just sit down and try to be like every other nerd out there and be like, here's a world that I want to build and just start putting it to paper. But it actually felt like you took the time to not just study about like what writing was when it came down to it, because the world building for this, absolutely amazing. If like the
Thank
fact
you.
that you're telling me this is like your first book that you've kind of like been putting
It is.
yourself into
Mhm.
surprises me with that. That's how good this is, because most of
Thank
the
you.
time I'm expecting like, the superhero gets his powers, saves
Mhm.
the girl, end of the story. That's kind of what most storylines end up going. And just to see the dynamic start off with a paramedic off somewhere else, and then you have a brother and sister, one in the military, and then one being a scientist or medical professional at that point, making a cure, is just better storytelling, in my opinion. It brings out new character development that's going to be there for, like you were saying, for any avenue to be able to take, and the stretches and everything. And so what is another thing that we can talk about with this, because there's so many avenues that I could go down because you put so many ways of things going in there.
So I
What
got a
is,
question for you.
go
What's your
for
favorite
it.
anime?
Mhm.
What's your favorite anime?
Favorite anime. I'm a classic. I always have to go with like DBZ or One Piece, but I've been really getting into like
Nice.
Assassination Classroom now and
Okay.
just really random stuff like that. And so I've been trying to stretch out my anime portfolio a little bit here
And
and
that's
there.
perfect. I'm glad you said DBZ. I'm glad you said One Piece. I have a couple of friends that are like pro DBZ and some are like pro One Piece. Why do you love One Piece?
So One Piece, it's that overarching arcs that they give us, those like inner
Uh-huh.
stories that are going on that you feel like are going to be connected to the like bigger arc that we're seeing when it comes to finding, oh my gosh, finding the One Piece, obviously, you
It's
know?
the world building, it's everything about it. Like you don't know what's gonna happen. Every city is different,
Exactly.
right?
Yep, yep.
Ooh. And DBZ, you're also dealing with different cultures if you think about it. If you look at the Saiyans, look at everything else, like they're all different cultures that have different
Mhm.
fighting essence. I just wanted to blend all of my friends' favorite animes into this comic universe. So that's why I wanted to do it. So like I have some people like, for instance, Epic, he has his book's called Code Vulcan. It is pretty much other people trying to make a, I don't say cheaper version of the cure, but they had to find, they didn't have the resources. So they had like their
Mhm.
secret military base, but it's hidden underground and it's somewhere west coast. And then things are people are trying to raid and do things. All right, they're gonna be scrapping very soon. So that's what his thing's over there. And then I have something going on with just the nerds. Just kind of sit back and think and more like, how do we do this? I'm gonna fight you with my mind, not just also in my hand. And I wanted to build the world. So like if you were to ever buy a Ghost Speed Universe book and you don't like Medic Grizz, that's okay. There's so many other options you can pick from and you hopefully you enjoy those. That's all I really wanted to do. Because when you grow up, you're like, I want to go buy a book. But like you said, it's only DC and Marvel for a long time, so you didn't know which one you wanted to. I personally love Dark Horse when I was growing
Hey,
up
no,
too.
Dark Horse is good. Dark Horse is great.
Yeah,
I
so like,
unfortunately haven't picked anything up like exclusively Dark
I
Horse, just stuff
oh,
that's always like, oh, well, this is Dark Horse affiliated and we brought them over
hmm
for like a two-issue thing kind of thing, you know? Like I've
but
been
having
getting
like you
small
said, like
things like that.
having like the options and this like, yo, if I want to drink, if I want to drink this today, I can drink that. If I want to drink this today, that's all I really
Hmm.
want to do.
No, but that's the best setup possible. And like when we get down to like the nitty gritty of this too, back to the whole black thing, because we love talking
Hmm
about people of color here. I felt like one of the greatest things was I could have seen myself in this comic for Medic Grizz. And one of the things was like the dynamic of the sister, um,
hmm
trifling over trying to be like, should I give my brother the cure or not, and then gives him the cure and then goes like, how is this going to affect him, kind of thing. I saw a lot of my sister in that just because she wanted to go into the medical field and everything like that.
Okay.
And you know, in the aspect of me as like a 7-year-old child, I always wanted to be that like tough superhero and stuff like that. And so like as a kid, for me, I was like reading this up and I was like, you know what, I kind of felt like you wrote this for me. It really felt like this was written for, you know, people of color, because it's like this is stuff that that affects our everyday community, even when it comes down to diseases that are going on. And then like you were just talking about, like not having access to healthcare as easily as some other people, like all of this stuff is effects of, you know, personability that was in the black community, but you phrased it in such a way that it doesn't feel like it's what everybody always complains about. Oh, it's us hitting us over the, it's hitting them over the hammer with black issues. No, you felt, I felt like you were perfectly writing this to just sneak it in to be like, hey, this stuff is there, but there's also a fun story to be told. And you just got me even more excited about the stuff that your friends are writing now, to where
I
I'm like,
appreciate
I'm
it.
gonna have to put some more money on my TikTok account here in a little bit and
No, I'm
be
gonna send you that.
purchasing some stuff.
I got you. I'm gonna send stuff out to you. Don't worry about it. Like
Hey,
it's,
I
I really,
appreciate
really
it.
appreciate that. So like the way you mentioned about like for instance, me being a paramedic, and this is a personal thing for me. Um, I walk into a room where there's not many of me. So people don't even know what paramedicine is. They know what police officer are. They know what fire trucks are. They don't know that if you were to call 911, you really want me to take care of you and to do the IVs and do the medicine. We're behind those closed doors. No one really sees us. So when it came to making a superhero or a comic book character, I wanted to implement the fact that you see someone that looks like you, and also it's a avenue of we can help people and cure. We can do medicine. It's good to know what atropine is. It's good to know what epinephrine is. Like these things like that that you can speak on and like, yo, mom, what is this? Like, it's not just a typical, like you said, the quote unquote comic book person. It's like, yo, he fights crime using his mind and medicine. And he's a person of color as well. Like that is, and then on top of that, there's a family of them that doing stuff like this. And there's multiple ones. Like that's what I really want to bring. So when a little young guy or girl sees this, they're like, yo, I want this, and I want the artwork to be kind of like just like there is no question about the fact that if it's a person of color or not, you know this person's in origin where they're coming from, and that
Hmm.
was important to me.
And that's what we love. That's what we love here to see, because that really, for one, builds community. It really helps
Mhm.
people to be able to come together a little bit more, and especially in today's times, being able to pick up a book from somewhere and just be able to see yourself, I think, is extremely important. And on with that too, when it comes to your medic character, that was one of the things that I found so interesting, because I had a grandmother who used to be in DC during 9/11, and so I don't get to know
Oh,
about a lot of information that was done over there. It was
okay.
basically like, I was in front of the Pentagon, I went inside the Pentagon. I don't get to know any more information besides that, versus she get to know everything behind those closed doors, like you were talking about. And so that connection that's there with that, it got me down to like this conspiracy theory like hole, because I immediately started being like, well, this reminds me of COVID. There was a lot of COVID conspiracy theories
Hmm.
going out there. Like, was this based off of one of the COVID conspiracy theories? Did you kind of like ball roll this out of like your own kind of like idea? Because me personally, I come up with the most crazy conspiracy theories. I have friends that are like, professionals in their own gig. And so they get mad at me when I like go to one of them and I'm like, hey, just so you know, rocks aren't real. Rocks aren't a real thing. And then they get all mad at me and they're like, I've been studying this for years. Please just go off with your crap.
You're that friend. I love it. You gotta have one of those in your crew. You gotta always have one in your crew. So yes, so my one of my favorite movies is Inception.
Ooh.
Inception was one of those movies that always I can go back to, and I feel like I missed this, and there's something else I can build off of it. So I wanted it's like almost a mind trick if someone's going on. And I'm not sure you remember this movie or not called The Prestige. It had Hugh Jackman and also Bale for played Batman. It was them being magicians and how like the illusion of what's really going on and everything else. Like these are movies that I always like resonate with me. So when I wanted to write everything down, I was like, I want y'all to think is this, but I got something
Mm-hmm.
coming for y'all. Like
I
I
like
got
it.
emotion coming. Like for instance, the next book that's being released, the artist who just sent me some of the prints for it, it's only going to be like 20 pages. But the 20 pages of this book is pure emotion. It's not neuro action. It's basically going to take place of what happens in that laboratory when the U.S. government finds out.
Ooh, so this is to let people know. Then that means for like issue 2, that's where the like writing chops really come down, because that's when you're gonna
Mhm.
have emotion being poured out. You're gonna be seeing some beautiful artwork. I've been able to see some extra stuff from what he sent me on TikTok, and like I know in my video I was a little harsh on the artist when it comes
Hey,
down to
it's
like the
fine.
making of this, because
Mhm.
just not my personal taste. The next stuff that he sent over to me in issue 2, though, I opened that up and I was immediately like, this is what I look for. This is personally what I look for in that, like, I don't want to say like overdue of art style, but there's
Mhm.
just so much that hits you in the face that it just takes you a quick sec to be like, what am I looking at?
Mhm.
Okay, I see the details that are in there. There's so much that's happening, and it's amazing work. It's great
Thank
stuff.
you.
So I
So
do
this is a
highly recommend.
so this is a different artist. So I'm also a true believer in that every book I'm thinking about doing a different artist on purpose,
I
just
like
so I
that.
spread the life around, also build the community of networking with people, and also give out a person who always wanted to create a comic book but never had a script. Like I'm a firm believer in that you need someone when it comes down to something. Like for instance, I'm a person who can write ideas and do all that. I can't draw, so it was meant for me to find someone that can draw. And there's people out there who are amazing artists, but they need ideas to put it on paper. So I try to find different cons and different people and just make it work. So this next artist, he did work. He did some real.
Hey, I love that. That is perfect. And that's the one thing too that I feel like almost lacks in comic books as well, because I do love getting like the same artist and having the consistency there in the big
Yeah.
issue. That's very nice. That's great to see. But one of the things that like I loved about the new 52 Harley Quinn was the different
Oh,
artwork that I was getting back then. Like I would pick up one issue and it would be like, consecutive here, and then all of a sudden in the middle of my trade paperback, completely different art, completely
yes.
different look to her, and then it goes back to the original art, or then it switches it up around to something different. Like that is something that brings more fans into this and brings people who like truly just love art to just
Mhm.
enjoy the art then, because there's some people who don't like comic books because they find it kiddish, but they still love to look at the pictures that are there, and then there's other people who buy comics that are just for the writing. And so the fact that you're trying to I almost want to say stretch yourself as big as
Yeah.
possible to overlap everything. That's like, I think the best way for you to start this off, because I just found you on TikTok and I remember you putting a comic in the comments on my profile and everything, and I'm like,
I thought
all
it was
right,
so
let's go
cool.
check this out. This
Yeah.
is this is such a cool story, and like it's right up the avenue of what I wanted to do there on TikTok, because I want to be able to get more people who look like us out there, who are just
Mhm.
trying to get our voices heard. It's not about an agenda or anything. It's just nice to see people who look like me being able to get a spotlight for every so often.
I
And
appreciate it,
I
bro.
feel like this book right here is going to be something that can move mountains eventually, because
Thank
this
you.
thing is it's exhilarating. It got my heart pumping when I was reading it, and not many comic books do that nowadays, and I have to be very choosy on that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So like I chose you and some others because I like what you were doing. And like I'm a shy person at heart. So like I'm the guy that like will give you the idea and let you shine. So like my wife and everybody's pushing me to be more vocal on TikTok, do more podcasts to get stuff out. But I'm like, I don't really I'm not that guy. But I'm trying to be that guy to express that. She's like, no, you need to put your stuff out so people know what's going on. So my overall dream when it's all said and done is that you know how they have comic book conventions and stuff like that?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
want to do a comic book art convention where I want people to take a page or whatever out of their book, and I want the artist or the writer to almost how they have like museums where they have art galleries, but they have your comic book pages, and you'll be able to talk about the emotion or the details of how you felt this page like navigated towards you, and you can know a backstory of what's going on.
I
That's like
love that.
what I want the passion of the one like, yo, what was going through your brain when you wrote this? All right, cool.
Hmm.
Does this paper really show that? What questions do you have? I have some more details to show you. Like even like it shows like Dragon Ball Z reference. You see Onyx inside the actual tube. What's going on?
Yep, yep.
That's
It
the
gave me
next.
that like healing
Yeah.
tube from like DBZ when
Yes.
he's up on Namek and stuff like that. That was the vibe I
So
was
that
getting
that
there.
and you look in the background, you see different kind of medicine, everything else. So like as you keep on going, every color means something. I love Godzilla. So one Godzilla's origin is the lizard and comes out Komodo dragon. So Onyx's bloodline and medicine mixed with him is Komodo dragon. So you're going to see things like that, and those are like, yo, all right, cool. So if I'm illustrating the art and I want to tell a story and I only have one page, how do I do it? So
Mm.
that's what I really want to do eventually, like travel the world and see, like, okay, you wrote this. This is how you feel about this. Talk about it, because
Oh,
your brain, your views are beautiful.
that's wonderful because like me personally, I was never the one to pick up like variant covers and stuff like that. And so it'd always be like side A, I need to save that extra dollar because who knows when I need a Big Mac one day. So I've got to,
Yes.
be a little stingy. And so the other
Mm-hmm.
two co-hosts here have gotten me like picking up some variant covers here and there. I've really started picking up some extra artwork. And I think that's extremely important just because art is one of the ways that we can express ourselves in one way and everybody's going to be able to understand it. There's not going to be a barrier of language, there's not going to be a barrier of cultural understandings. At the end of the day, when you see a frowny face on someone, that person's going to be sad no matter what culture they're in. And so that's the greatest thing about what you're talking about right there, is that you're going to be reaching bounds of just not from our culture but from other cultures too. You'll be able to see how other people experience, terror or pain or happiness at that end of the day just through a simple comic book page, which is amazing to see because that's what I got through here. The terror on her face when it was like her finding out that that was her brother and everything like that. I like, for one, I felt the like emotional response from what happened with me and my dad when I had to like go and deal with some personal family stuff a little bit similar. But then at the same time though, it's like your artist was able to express that so well that it just hit me in the guts there. And so like I need to give the props to that first artist.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing, because it
Oh,
was
yo.
great. They did everything that they needed to do with that first issue to get you like, what is going on here? I love
Mhm.
this. And so everything just feels like the ball is rolling real well with this. Do you
Thank
know
you.
like an expected time when we should be expecting issue two?
All right, so bet. So I had conversations. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see, but in the background, these are some of the books I've already written that haven't even been released.
Mm-hmm.
So there's stories I have. So round 1 through 12 is already written, and I had my buddy's a big Star Wars fan. He said, "What if we don't go in order?" I said, "What do you mean?" I like it's comic books. You gotta go in order. He's like, "No, like right now you put out 1, 2, and 3. You already written all the rest of the books. What if you just skip 3 and 4 and just popped in with 6 or 7 and put the round 6 or 7 so you read it? they have to actually eventually figure out what's going on. I said, but that will make readers not want to really read it. He's like, no, you don't understand. They're going to want to go back. So the next book that's coming out within the next 2 months is going to be around 7 and 8. So I'm skipping 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, I
And
like that. I
so
like
7
that.
and
It
8.
almost gave me like a Moon Knight feel from that one because
Yes,
of him chopping around through his different personalities to where you're getting different
yes.
hints of the story and you're trying to get those pieces together. I love that. And then as well as somebody like I'm a
Mhm.
Batman fan, so I love the whole detective-y
Oh,
kind of stuff and everything.
yes,
And so that makes me feel like I'm getting a like detective story at the end of the day. I'm going to have to put
it is.
pieces together. I'm going to have to like try to get things going. I love that whole aspect of it.
So by March, it should be out.
We're looking
That,
out around March. I like it. I
around
like
March.
it.
That'll be out. That'll be 7 and 8. And then I have an opportunity to hopefully see how you guys feel about this. And then when y'all read it, let me know how you feel, especially you. And then I'm actually going to send you, when that 7 8 comes out, I'm going to send you the whole rounds 1 through 12. And then I'm going to ask to see where y'all want to go next. Because I also have like Cowboy Syndicate. Cowboy Syndicate is the book that's down below with the two blazing swords. Those are the twins. So eventually they cross paths and then crossed into the different worlds. I'm a big proponent for wrestling. I have a wrestling comic book that I put out too. But like these are all stories I can like dabble around. But Metagriz is like the center core. I want to know how you guys feel about this next book when it comes out, and then we'll go from there.
Heck yeah, I will definitely be down with that. I'm 100% down with that. And we'd
Yeah,
love to always have you back here for more interviews when you have some more issues come out. Keep, you know, all this podcast and the good stuff going because we want to see more of your face and we want to see more of your work out there. Because, like I said, you've popped up on my TikTok once, and now, like, every fourth or fifth video on my FYP is always something like Medic Grizz related from what you've been pushing out there. So, I'm hoping to
thank
see
you.
more of your face. I'm hoping to see more of TikTok get out there, and hopefully this gets out there too, and we can get all of our friends that are up in the Discord onto your book as well, because this is
Absolutely.
truly a fun read, and it's such great world building. You have all the building blocks that are there for a great story. So the fact that you already have it finished and the way that you're going to be releasing this is extremely fun. Trust me, I know that everybody's going to be hooked onto this comic at the end of the day.
You're too kind, man. You're way too kind. I appreciate that. I really do.
Yep. But that's basically all the questions that I had for this interview. Is there anything you want to leave any readers off or anybody out there with the world? We always like to leave people with a last message here with Comic Unmasked.
I have a question for you.
Go for it.
What pushes you and what makes you do this?
Ooh, that is a really good question. I'm gonna have to say it comes from like the love of comics that I got from my dad because he
Mhm.
really pushed me to read as a young kid and I never wanted to. You'd put a novel in front of my face, didn't want to touch it. And so as soon as he threw a Batman issue in front of me, it was like an old issue with like Penguin and a couple of other guys that like broke out of jail. I can't remember the name off of it because it's such a not an old comic book, but it's old to me at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so that's just really where I got into that. And then during COVID time, I ended up losing my dad, ended up losing my grandma on his side at that like
All right.
same time. Grandma was from COVID, dad was from drinking, so fun things and all that fun jazz. And so there was something that just lit a fire under my butt at that time that I was like, I need to not bring on his memory, but I need to extend his memory out to where like the rest of the world needs to know about him because I felt like he was a very intellectual guy, but he never was able to express himself in a particular way because he was very shy. That was one of the things that I was too. And like you were talking about, didn't want to put your face on camera, didn't want to get out there and actually show yourself to the world. So I ended up taking, I feel like a calling to that. And so eventually I'm going to be getting his poetry out there and all of that other fun jazz because it's just, it's more of just a movement and the next step, what I think is logical for me to keep just moving forward because that's the whole step is to find something that makes me happy. I'm
Sorry
not sure
about
if
you.
I answered your question
No,
there,
you
but
did. I
yeah.
first of all, sorry for your loss. I am also very proud to know you're moving forward with it. That's awesome. I think your energy and how you are articulating your thoughts and your views are going to spread like wildfire if you keep pushing it the way you are. And I know you're going to keep doing great things. My last question I want to ask you: Hush, Court of Owls, which one? If you're a Batman fan,
Court of Owls. Court of
Okay.
Owls. I love Hush.
Okay.
I love the storyline and stuff like that, but there's just something with the Court of Owls to where when I was watching the animated series and they like
Mhm.
pushed that in front of the face that there was this whole other like rich section of Gotham that was there that was part of the elites that Batman's family was a little bit of a part of, but he had no history of like, or not no, he had not no history. He had no knowing of it. I was
Mhm.
like, this got me intrigued. This is a true like detective story that I can just really love at the end of the day, you know? And that's my main premise that I always tell my comic book people is what I look for is a detective story. I'm always it doesn't even have to be evolved around detectives, but if it feels like I'm putting pieces together as a reader, then I know I found a good story, you know?
That's awesome. Most people don't know what quarter hours are, so I'm just happy you said that. Like that's awesome right there.
Mm-hmm.
Great
But
stuff,
yeah,
man.
and so I appreciate you coming on. This was such a great, experience to have is to just talk with somebody and be able to pick your brain a little bit on what's going on in this universe. And so,
Yes, sir.
uh, leave the readers with something that you can enjoy or something that they can look forward to in this next issue.
Um, First of all, thank you for having me. I will leave the readers with this: that the next book you will pick a side. Either you're going to be Team Grizz or you're going to be Team Onyx, and you're going to be perfectly fine with that. And that's how I'm gonna leave it. There's people out there that like you, like, hey, I know why he's Thanos. I rock with that. That is going to take place in this next book.
Hey, I love it. That's excellent. And for everybody who's listening, you can go find this on TikTok. Hopefully, he will be able to get this up onto Amazon, like he was saying. I will be pushing this as much as I can on my personal profile,
Thank
and we
you.
will be talking about it in our Discord. So, everybody hop in there. I hope y'all have a very wonderful day.